So if you're watching this video, it is Father's Day, and um I just got done trying to find the obituary of my father and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I may have to include it in like a future video cuz it because that's probably the only picture of him that I can remember having. He was definitely a part of my life, but as a trans woman, oftentimes in the black community, it can be really, really hard. Well, in any community, really. It can be really hard, especially if the child that is in question is the only child of that gender. Um, and since I was his only son and his youngest child, I have I say I have no regrets with him in my relationship, but now I realize that the one regret I do have is not having an honest conversation with him about how he felt about having a trans daughter. I could base it off of the discussions I had with him. Um, where he told me where there were things said that, would imply that he wasn't really accepting. But I want to say that even though he may not have accepted me as his daughter, I still have very fond memories of him, and I still have um, such love and respect for him because he was my dad. And I am trying to figure out how to tell the story of us without painting him in a bad light, because he was not a bad person, but I just feel like I'm beginning to discover that my relationship with men after him um has been kind of the same as my relationship with him. So anyway, I want to dive into the story of my dad and I also want to talk about um I want to talk about some of the dads that I write in my story, because I have recently realized that fathers in my stories play a very huge role. The mothers are there or not there in some cases, but the fathers always tend to be the primary caregiver. And I did not realize that until recently. So, anyway, let's get into the video. So, before I get into the story of my dad, this is the one thing that I took from his house um, that I wanted to keep. Um, it's an old, like, Stetson style hat, and excuse the dustiness. Um, it's old and it's weathered, and um, it very much reminds me of him. And I actually keep it on top of my bookcase here um, as a reminder, because he played a very integral part in me finishing my first book, Remembering June. I will always thank him for being the inspiration for me finishing the book, and kind of being a wake up call for me. His death was kind of a wake up call for me that time is short and you should always be aware that you're not guaranteed time. Um, I remember My favorite thing that I used to do with him was, I'm going to sit this here. My favorite thing that I used to do with him was riding in his car. Um, he had this old, I think it was a Ford, and it was white on the outside, and it was red and white on the inside. And I just remember riding with him in that car, and it was just he would like take me on drives. Like anytime I spend any time with him, like we would spend time in the car and he would drive me around. And I remember I have that is a fond memory for me because those were the times when I felt really connected to him. And there were always stops along the way where we would like go visit different people and everything. Um and those are the memories that I carry with me now. The other memories I carry with me about my father are the fact that he was always there even before I transitioned. Like back when I was a dancer, if I called him and told him that I had a performance or whatever, he never hesitated to be there. And that's another fond memory I have of him. And of course, he took care of me financially. He made sure, that my mom got support payments every month and that I was well taken care of. And um, he and my mom were like best friends up until the day he died. So, like I said, he was not. And you'll often find with parents that they're not always what we would want them to be, but he was beautiful in the way that he dealt with my mom and dealt with me. And that's something that's priceless for me because, especially in this age of so many broken homes, and my mom and my dad were never married. If you saw the video I posted with my mom earlier in for Mother's Day, that was fun to do. And I kind of knew that this video was going to be a little bit different because I do not have my father to talk to or to interact with. So I kind of wanted to do this as a tribute to him and as a tribute to all the fathers because I don't think that even with Father's Day I don't know sometimes that fathers get the flowers that they deserve for showing up and for being there for their children and for being good dads. Like, I don't think we give them their flowers sometimes, and especially if the relationship with your father is difficult, I don't think that you necessarily see them for who they are when they're here, but when they pass, oh boy, do you feel it. And I'm trying to not be emotional about this because there's really no need. Like I said, I have no regrets with him, but I feel like there are so many questions that I have now that I should have asked and I didn't ask. So give me a moment and I'll be back. I guess you guys say, oh my God, she's always crying on camera. The one thing that I promised myself when I started this channel is that I was going to be completely open and vulnerable, which is hard for me to do sometimes, especially as a trans woman, because I always feel like, and this is something that I've been working on, that with the men in my life, I feel like I have always had a guard up. And I feel like with my dad, I had the same guard up, trying to protect my heart. Because the truth is, I wanted him to accept me. Um, And I think he accepted me in the way that he knew how. I want to be honest about that. I think he accepted me in the way that he knew how to accept me, and he wasn't mean or malicious to me. He didn't completely disown me from his life. It's not that story. It's just there was no closeness. Um and that sometimes bothers me, but then I also have sisters that were born that he that are from his side that um I wonder sometimes if they felt closeness to him, or if they felt like he was um it's funny how okay, I'm going to just cut that off, but I'm going to say this. I It's funny how that someone loves you and that they would do anything for you, and it's still hard to not be fully accepted by them. But I wonder if, because my sisters, my dad's other daughters, they loved him. And they loved him with their whole hearts. He was their dad. And so, and he was my dad. And I want to say that my heart goes out to my sisters, because I wonder if sometimes they didn't didn't feel that he loved them. And that hurts my heart. And now I look at my relationship with these particular sisters, and it's not close. And I'm guilty. I don't really I don't really work on it. I don't really try to um I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I've tried with my sisters, or tried to make it work. But as I get older, I'm 42 now, I'm thinking like there are some relationships that I wonder that if I had really put the work in, if they would be different. And my relationship with my dad would have been one of those. I wonder if I had just decided to love him despite my own hangups about how I wanted him to love me, if the relationship would have been better. And like I said, I don't have any regrets with him at all. But I do regret not asking questions and not having conversations and not fully accepting my dad for who he was. So those are my regrets. But in terms of my relationship with him, I don't regret it. I feel like it was what it was. And it was what it was meant to be. And I hope that I'm making him proud. So, anyway, I want to shout out to my sisters. I know I don't see you, I know I don't talk to you, but I feel your presence when I think about daddy, when I think about, you know, what we could be if maybe we worked a little harder. So, I'm going to go into the story of um my dad and what he meant to me. So, Let's do it. This video turned into me crying the whole time, so I'm gonna try to get through this next part without getting emotional. What my dad meant to me. He he was the youngest, just like I am the youngest of both his children and my mom's children. He was also he was also the only boy, and his sisters, from what my mom tells me, they spoiled him. I still have aunts on my dad's side that are still alive, and again, I don't have any real relationship with them. Um, it's kind of like I'm working through all of this now, like all of the untouched stuff that has kind of maybe sat dormant inside of me for years about my relationship with my father and his side of the family. Um, I know that at least one of my aunts that my mom is in contact with, and she is a beautiful human being, and I think there is potential for a relationship if I would actually reach out and actually do the work that it required, but I have not done that. So back to what my dad means to me. So I have examples of great dads in my life. One was my dad. My dad was a great dad. Despite despite his shortcomings, he was my dad and he was great. But I watch my nephews as dads. I watch my cousin parent children that were not his blood children, but that he fathered and loved. And got examples in like my boss, my old boss. He is a great father, a great provider. Um, Fathers are essential to the people that we become as adults. And I think that because our society is so used to, especially in black households, seeing single mothers or if single fathers for that matter, that it has become the norm. But I think that if you are in a place where you are struggling through your relationship with your baby's father, or you're struggling through um, how to make the co-parenting thing work, I think it is our obligation to make sure that if as long as the parent is not toxic to the child, that both parents are present and that we're not using our kids as a weapon against the father. If the father is a good person and the relationship didn't work out, it doesn't it it's not fair to withhold the affection and love of a father from a child. And if he's not harming your child and he's doing the best that he can and he's giving the best of himself, your child should not be used as a weapon against him. I watched my mom raised me, and she was never a single parent, even though I didn't live in the same household as my father. She was never a single parent. So I just want to stress that it's okay to be angry at your baby's father or to not get his way of doing things, but do not weaponize your children to hurt him or to make him feel less than, and then cry wolf about what he's not doing, when in reality you're the problem, and you're the person that's not allowing him to do what he can do. Now in some cases that's not the case. Sometimes there are fathers that are completely just trash. And in that case, if they're complete trash, your child is better off without a father. But if your baby's father is a good father, but your relationship didn't work out, I hope that you find it in your heart to give him a shot and let him be a father and let him love on his children. And this is not at all what I was planning on saying. So anyway, I'm gonna segue out of all of this. Hopefully I have said some things that resonated for you, and I just want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, both living and deceased. Um, I just want you to know that you are important, and that you play a huge part in the people that we become. And I want to thank you for showing up, for being present in your children's lives, for being the yin, the yang to our mother's yin, and for being a soft place for some of us to land. So I just wanted to say that. Now let's talk about like the fathers that I write in my books. So when I started writing Remembering June, I just knew that the mother was never going to be a part of the story. She was going to be she's going to be there a little bit, like in like flashbacks and like conversations that the girls would have, but she wasn't going to be a living presence in the book. And I knew, and as the books kind of started to come to me, I knew that the father was going to be, he was going to return on the day of the sister's funeral, or the mother's funeral. And it would have been some time that the girls had not seen him or heard from him or anything. And when I first started writing Douglas, of course, Remembering June is really a story of forgiveness and how hard it can be sometimes. And Douglas, the father in Remembering June, he came back and he humbled himself before his children after 20 years and wants to have a relationship with them and wants to build from where they are now. And at times I feel like he kind of wants to sweep the fact that he's been gone for so long under the rug, which the girls continuously call him on, until eventually they find a place where they find common ground. Now, there are a whole bunch of other elements of the book, but I want to talk about Douglas specifically because I wrote him after my dad passed. And Douglas was this man who had a multitude of faults. He was not faultless in the situation, but like I said, he humbled himself before his children and realized his faults and had come back, and he wanted to build relationships from where they were now as adults rather than what he had done in the past. So when I wrote him, it was sometimes hard because again, my own father had passed, but I wanted to write him with a level of where the reader would feel some sympathy for him. Whereas in Unmasked, the father was just completely checked out of the main character Simone's life. He wanted nothing to do with her. And as you read the book, you kind of start to figure out why their relationship is the way it is. But it was funny to write Douglas, who is this humbled father who has been missing from his child's life for, I believe that it was like 20 years that he hadn't been a part of their lives. And then um, you have, oh God, I can't even remember the father's name in Unmasked, but you have him contrast to Douglas because he is not, he's made the decision that he's not going to be a part of his daughter's life because she's trans and he wants nothing to do with that. And then now I'm writing Unbridled, and Unbridled, the father is a Church of Christ minister, and he has a trans child, and I wrote him in the way that I wish that the church and that fathers would embrace their trans children. And that's why I think that I'm so afraid to write this story, because I want to do it justice, and I want this story to come across in the way that, and I hope that the story comes across in the way that I want it to. So I write the kind of, I just realized recently that I write a lot of my stories where the mother is out of the picture for one reason or another. In Remembering June, the mother has passed on. She's dead. She's gone. She died of cancer. And the very first chapter is her funeral. And then enters Douglas also. I think he enters in maybe like chapter 3. Then we have Unmasked, where the father is completely checked out of his child's life, and we get a first glimpse of what that relationship is like, I think in maybe like chapter 2, no, probably like chapter 3 or 4 of Unmasked, when Simone calls her father, and she's drunk and she needs someone to talk to, and she reaches out to her father because feels like for some reason she feels like he's the person she needs to be talking to at that time. And then in Unbridled, excuse me, the father is I gotta go back. Because in Unmasked, the mom is a drug and alcohol, she's addicted to drugs and alcohol. And so she hasn't really been a presence in in my main character, Simone's, journey. And then in Unbridled, the mom basically walks out of her children's life to pursue her singing career and leaves the father, the Church of Christ minister father, with 4 girls to raise. And so I don't really know. Maybe there's some deeper meaning behind all of that, but I wrote all of my books with the fathers being a very integral part of their children's lives, and the mothers kind of being having failed in the role that a mother would typically hold. There's probably something deeper to that, but I'm not ready to explore that yet. But that's a little bit about the fathers that I write in my books. So in conclusion, happy Father's Day. It is a brand new day. It is actually Saturday that I'm recording the conclusion of this video. I just got done watching all of the footage from the video because I was kind of skeptical about posting it in the way that I had recorded it originally, because I wasn't sure if it was going to come across in the way that I wanted it to come across. Then I started to think about part of the thing that is missing in social media for me sometimes is the vulnerability. There are a lot more people out now that are being vulnerable in the creation of their content, but I think yesterday I felt like maybe I had gone too far in the vulnerability category, and I'm not sure if there is too much vulnerability when you are creating content for people to view and when you're trying to let people into your life. So I'm gonna leave. Decided I'm going to leave the footage as is. And as I'm recording this, like I said, I've just gotten done watching all of it. And I think I got across for Father's Day what I wanted to get across. And I just want to stress again that I know there are mothers out there playing both roles. You're playing father and mother because your child's father, for whatever reason, is just not a part of their lives. And I just want to commend you for keeping on, for not giving up, and doing what you needed to do to ensure that your children become productive adults. I kind of felt like that was something that I was missing in this video, is the mothers that have taken on that role of raising boys. And yes, we always say that a woman will never understand what it's like to be a man, and I think that there may be some truth to that, but then as a trans person, I'm not sure that it is true. I guess that's something that I'll have to explore further. I think there are certain experiences, yes, that a woman can never experience because she'll never live as a man, right? But it does not take away from the fact that women have been raising men for years, and some of them turn out pretty okay. Granted, the dating world would not make you think so, but because some of these guys have been raised by mothers that have been supportive and been completely beautiful in their lives, and they are, just not good human beings. But I think as I'm trying to reframe my thoughts about men and about my own father, that I am going to try to focus on the good. Focus on the good. Because there are good ones out there, and I'm hoping that I find my good one, and I hope that I can work through all of this stuff with my father and come to a place where I can embrace love fully and not have these walls up, and really be able to put myself out there. But until then, I have this video where I am thanking all the fathers for your contribution to your children's lives. You are amazing, and I wanted to create a video that gave you your flowers because I know there are people out there that have lost their fathers and they are missing them today. And I know that there are living fathers that are giving it all they've got as single fathers and as, co-parenting fathers. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. And just say thank you for being present for your children, for advocating for your children, for being present with them, because they need you. We all need our fathers, whether we know it or not. So anyway, I'm going to close out the video, and I thank you for watching, and I hope that to see you in my next video. Have a great Father's Day.